morning and welcome to another beautiful day in Melbourne. Sunny skies. Supposedly it's going to be around the mid-20s. Melbourne is more known for its grey skies and blue skies, but today we have a beautiful blue sky showing. Now, today's trip takes us from Templestowe to Eastland, a trip I regularly do on a Tuesday. So off we go. But I thought I'd try something different today. I thought I'd ask us a question. What do you really think about these mobile phones, seatbelt cameras? Now, when you see other people on their phone in their car, it can be pretty damn annoying, particularly when they're not focused on their driving. At traffic lights, there's no real danger when they're sitting there looking at their phone, except that they forget to look up and see that the lights have changed. So it's a bit of an inconvenience, but not something that can be deadly. I did see a person that did handyman work or whatever. I don't know if they were tradesmen driving along on the ring road. There's a video of it on my site, on the YouTube site, where they were just all over the road, on the ring road at full 100 kilometres an hour, and as they drifted towards a car that had broken down on the side of the road, on the left hand side, at the last minute they veered away. Now that could have been a deadly crash. When I say last minute, last seconds, fractions of a second. I certainly would not want to be sitting in that car with some idiot sitting on their mobile phone. But what's the reality of them? I mean, we actually get a bit brainwashed by the governments in terms of we get ramped up, we get promoted to all the time that mobile phones, seatbelts, they're so important. And yes, to a degree they are so important. But what's the reality? So the first thing that happens is that people get angry if they see other people on their phone. They get really angry. I've seen people take videos sitting there with cameras mounted all around their car taking phones, and they're angry at these other people sitting at the traffic lights on their mobile phone. Not just even to the point of reporting them to the police and sending the footage to the police. That's the level of anger we don't need on our roads. Yes, you don't want other people being distracted on the roads, but there's multiple ways of being distracted on the roads, not just mobile phones. Checking out the speed signs, checking out the people around you, not paying attention, talking to your passenger. I know for one that my passenger once said, "Hey, have a look at that out the window," so I did, and whoa, I was not concentrating on the road ahead. So just a momentary lapse of concentration certainly increases the risk to yourself and to others. So, let's take the figures for, and these are just very rough figures for Victoria. There's roughly about 300 deaths on the Victorian roads a year, and that's tragic, absolutely tragic. It's a loss of life, and it makes me sad, truly sad, to think of people losing their lives in that situation, or any situation for that matter. There's probably 6,000 plus accidents, overall casualty accidents. So maybe up to 8,000, I'm not exactly sure, but 6 to 9,000 casualty accidents a year on Victorian roads. So deaths on Victorian roads would be about 5% of the casualty accidents. Maybe 3 1/3% if it's up to, so between 3 and 5% would be as a result of accidents. Now, the Monash Accident Research Centre, when Victoria did start using mobile phone seatbelt cameras, did say that it would reduce the casualty accidents in Victoria by approximately 100. So if you take that 100, and the casualty accidents are ones where people are injured sufficiently enough to be taken to hospital or die from a road accident. So about 100 casualty accidents, including serious injuries, requiring hospitalisation and deaths. So if you look at the 100 and say 3 to 5% of that, it means 3 to 5 deaths on the road could be avoided. And whilst that's a fantastic figure, it's only 3 to 5%. It's not huge. And if you also look at accidents happen because of two things: yourself or somebody else. So you could almost halve the number of accidents that you cause. So if it's your fault or the other person's fault. But let's say there's 3 to 5. Now, if we take South Australia, I think in the first year they raised $56 million from their mobile phone seatbelt cameras. They're fixed over in South Australia. They don't have mobile ones. So they're fixed phone seatbelt cameras. And they raised $56 million. I think it was over the 12-month period. But South Australia's population's significantly less than Victoria's. I would probably say maybe a third, maybe less. We're about 7 million or something. They're probably 1 to 2 million. I don't think they'd be much more than 2 million. But anyway, and let's say they're about a third of Victoria. So the number of road deaths that will be avoided in South Australia, maybe 1. And the amount of money raised is $56 million. Now, so do you think that they're mostly money raisers, or do you think they're for safety? Now, I have a both attitude. The government, the more money that the government raises, the more people they're catching. The more people they're catching, the more people they end up modifying their behaviour through loss of points or pain. So unfortunately, the government looks bad because it's raising so much money. But I was thinking the other day, the good thing is they don't just raise money, they do give demerit points. So even if you're filthy rich beyond your wildest dreams, okay, yep, let's go a bit overboard, but anyway, even if you're well off and money isn't as much of an issue as it is if you're a student that's just barely breaking, being able to put food on your table, those fines are horrendous. But we're all treated equally with the demerit points. So even if a well-off person can actually dismiss the money as not being particularly painful, they can quickly, if they continue their behaviour, they can quickly build up points to the point where they actually lose their licence, and that is going to cause some real pain. Of course, if you're rich enough, and I saw one person, or heard of one person who actually lost their licence, I don't know if it was drinking or speeding, and they lost their licence, and they had a BMW as a company car on lease. Well, they got rid of their lease and hired a chauffeur to take them to and from work. So yeah, if you're filthy rich beyond belief, you won't worry about the speeding fines or the demerit points. There's ways that it just won't impact you. But that's not for the rest of us. That's not for the majority of us. So are they just a money raiser, or largely a money raiser? I think they're pretty much a very large money raiser, largely a money raiser. I sort of half think so. But it's if you look at it, it's really hard for the government out of those 300 lives lost, it's really hard for the government to actually pinpoint anything specific that could have probably done anything to change that. Now, when I say that, when we all move to self-driving cars and robo-taxis, all of that will disappear. And the lives saved on the road by robo-taxis and self-driving cars will just do away with speeding fines. They'll do away with mobile phone usage. All those things, the hundreds of thousands, if not billions of dollars raised by fines, will just disappear. That's going to hurt the government in a big way. But it's also going to help the community in a big way. So I'm looking forward to the future of technology when they do actually do it right and they take responsibility for their wrongs that they do, because it's shocking that they can get away with their technology working to the point where somebody gets killed and it's almost insignificant, the penalty that they pay. So, but that's probably not much different from the early cars running over people. And you used to have a person walking down the street holding flags in front of the car as part of the condition of driving a car. So things do change, things do evolve. The future will probably have more virtual working, and also we won't drive as much. We might not even have licenses. We probably won't have licenses in the future. So it's a bit sad, because our generation enjoyed those licenses, and it is a time of freedom, but the freedom comes in many different forms. So myself, what I've done is I've created a web app, Speed Limit Alerts, I've called it, and it's part of my speed camera locations, and I have that going now every day when I go for a drive. I don't touch my phone, it's sitting there, sitting there in the commercial handset as required by law, and it's letting me know I'm doing 51 kilometres an hour and this street is 60 kilometres an hour. It'll let me know where the before I go out in the morning, I put up the cameras that are around at the moment, and this will let me know if there's a camera, a mobile phone, a mobile camera, seatbelt camera. It's got all the fixed cameras around. In fact, I've now covered all of Australia for fixed speed cameras, red light and speed cameras, average speed cameras. When I say average, it covers the location of the average camera and treats it currently as a fixed camera, so you know that you're going past a camera. But for the average cameras, you don't know you're going past. You're in an average speed zone. So there are tools, there's ways, but I'm not totally happy with Waze, because it does a couple of things. One, the information on the screen's too small for me to be able to see clearly. I went to touch my phone to pick it up to check what was on the phone, and I thought, oh geez, I made this mistake of touching my phone, and that's how easy it is. You have a momentary lapse of recall or whatever. You're not allowed to take your phone out, but if you can't see something and you go to see it because you bring it closer to your face, you're touching your phone. So even I've screwed up, but I caught myself out. I didn't actually touch my phone, but I did go to pick up my phone and bring it closer. So very easy for you to do that, and when you're doing that, because you can't see something on the tool that you're using, it's actually a distraction itself. The other thing it does is it goes through speed areas like school zones, and it's programmed to be the highest speed through those areas. So if the school zone is one that changes during the day, or roads, it might be 60. This road here is 60 during the day, but it's normally 80 where the school is. So it doesn't tell you that the speed is 60, and so you can get caught out. And there's so many areas now in Victoria where they've dropped the speed, and they'll do it around every shopping centre, shopping strip, they'll drop it down to 40s or 30s, and that's just the way it's going. It has been for the last 10 years, I've been told. I was told over 10 years ago that the desire was to bring the speed limits down to 40 or even 30 to reduce the potential of death. So that's been happening. It's not a new thing, it's not a government thing, it's just the way the bureaucracy is approaching it. Now, I was thinking the other day, perhaps every car should have a black box in it that records your driving history over the recent hour, let's say. And if you get pulled over, the police can quickly check to see whether or not you've been speeding. I mean, if you've got the fear of actually being truly caught, and it's so easy for them to catch you, you're going to actually drive appropriately. So I think the current hit and miss, and Waze tells you, there's tools tells you, my tool tells you that there's cameras, then it helps those who use the technology, those who don't, and who choose to speed and ignore the rules. It doesn't help them one little bit. So overall, what's your thoughts about mobile phone seatbelt cameras? The seatbelt side of it, I sort of feel personally that yes, it is tragic if people are killed not wearing their seatbelt, but generally if somebody's killed not wearing their seatbelt, in itself it's a tragedy, but it's not going to be affecting other people on the road. It's their choice, their action, and their action generally won't hurt somebody else. But using a mobile phone and being distracted, and if it ends up killing somebody else, then to me, in the scheme of things, that's more severe. But in itself, remember the mobile phone seatbelt camera introduction, they said 100 casualties. Well, a third of that could be seatbelts. And if that's the case, in Victoria, we're only talking about 1 or 2 deaths a year being impacted. So the numbers just don't stack up for the revenue that's being generated. Some companies are making very, very good money selling very expensive equipment and beliefs to the governments all over the world. But think about it, the way you get the most people using their mobile phone is sitting at the traffic lights. That's where I see them in the past. I don't pay any attention to them at the moment, but that's where you would get a lot more people. So a couple of cameras located at intersections where people get delayed might catch a lot more people than the ones sitting on a remote road somewhere. And it's, yeah, so I think I'm not against them, don't get me wrong, I'm not against the mobile phone seatbelt cameras. I for one try to drive by the rules and obey the rules. I sometimes do muck up, as we all do on the road. There's many ways to muck up on the road, and I have not had a crash in my I don't think I've actually had a crash. Yes, I haven't had a crash in my 40, nearly 50 years of driving. Less than a handful of speeding tickets, and a couple of parking tickets. So really, I'm a pretty much obey the rules, learn the rules, obey the rules type person. I wrote this web app for myself, and if others wish to use it, they're welcome to. And it allows me to be less stressed because I can see that I'm obeying the speed. For example, when we come around this corner there, we've got this dip. It's very easy for you to speed up and exceed the speed limit, and police sit here as a direct result of that. Now that's a small mistake caused by the conditions of the road, but ultimately it's up to the individual to put their brakes on and slow the car down. But there's a number of spots where that can happen. So let me know your thoughts. What do you think about mobile phone seatbelt cameras? And thank you very much for joining me on this trip. It's amazing how quickly the time goes when you're sitting there talking to somebody else, and even though you're not here, you've certainly helped me today, so thank you very much.